What's going on, beautiful people? It's Baba Will once again coming at you live. I was inspired this morning. Well, first of all, I'd like to kind of apologize if you hear some background noises. It's I'm right next to a house of worship, and today is Sunday, and a lot of people like to celebrate God on Sundays, so I'm gonna apologize in advance for any noise that you hear. I'm right next to a house of worship right now, and they are, like the young people say, are lit and turned up. So if you hear occasional boom baps and all types of sounds and of glee, and that's what's going on. Just letting you know. So, with that being said, and without further ado, let's get right into the message in this video that I'm putting out real quick, right? This message is about an Olodu called Oche. An Olodu that is used in my faith-based system called Lukumi, Orisha worship. In this faith-based system, we use a system of divination called Medindilogun, and it's comprised of combinations of Olodus that make up Odus that identify stories, and they capture specific meanings on what is taking place in our lives at any given point, even from the perspective of the past, the perspective of the present, and the future. So, one of the letters of the Odus in Lukumi is Ochei. And that's what this is about, Ochei. Ochei really is a really special type of letter. On a popularized level, when people speak about Ochei, or people in this faith, in my faith, speak about Ochei, they equate Ochei with the blood. They equate Ochei with finances by way of money or by way of mineral wealth, gold and things of that nature. People equate Ochei with music, family relationships, and things of that nature, right? And that's fine. But, there's also, that's what's on the surface. But when you dig a little bit deeper, it gets a bit more profound. But we're not going to get this profound. We're not going to get into in depth in this video. There's no time in the world that's going to be able to capture the expanse of Ochei, much less the Dilogun in general. But there's key characteristics that I'm going to identify here that I find very interesting and important, and it sort of like keeps a level of checks and balances in how things go in life, and reminds me of the importance of why Ochei exists, and the impression that we should live our lives a certain way, and we meaning people who believe in Orisha, and it applies to laymen too, like those who aren't. But this is just for Orisha devotees and adherents. Both initiated or not initiated. Like when I think of Ochei, like when you complete something, when you fit you're working on a task, right? And you get to a point where you think you've reached the end of the task, like something is, you think you're done, But you might think you're done, but there's an impression. There's something inside you that's telling you that, you know, something is not like there's something there that's missing, that is not quite done. Like you may look at it and you're saying, okay, yeah, I'm done with this project, or I'm done with this piece of work, but there's something that's missing. That feeling you get, that impression you receive about something being missing, I personally like to equate that as being Oche. That's the characteristic of Oche. That missing link. That it completely sort of like put the seal on the cap. Right? That's the glue. That's the element that would be needed to tie everything together. Right? In a sense, for me, that's Oche. Oche is the underdog. Let me talk about a little bit of the characteristics in addition to what I said about what Oche brings. Oche definitely speaks about self-love and bringing love, creating and sharing love. Loving yourself and loving others and promoting that by way of through your actions. Understanding your value, understanding what you bring to the world, much less to the table, understanding who you are, the qualities you have within yourself to share with the world. Understand that, you know, you have a purpose. Ochei teaches that. It's interesting because for as much that, you know, the pretty, fluffy, I like to say without any type of disrespect, but for much of the greater things such as love, such as money, such as everything that fulfills us, that has some type of meaningful joy, there's a flip side to that. You know, Ochei also talks about everything opposite of that. You know, think about joy, and the opposite of that is extreme sadness. You know, extreme depression, where you don't even want to be bothered with anyone, much less at sometimes you don't even want to be bothered with yourself. Forget about the world, right? So again, Ochei teaches about checks and balances, understanding that you need some type of uniformity when you're dealing when you're dealing with yourself and when you're dealing with others in the community and the world at large. You need to have some type of uniformity, because everything can't always be lovey-dovey, but at the same time everything can't always be doom and gloom. But if you're not careful, you can fall into any one of these extremes or outliers and get caught up in a bad way. That's why it's important to understand your role in life, understand how these things manifest and how the impression or the influence of Ochei can manifest in your life. You know, when you're talking about Ochei, you're talking about your relationship with people. First with yourself. It's about understanding your worth and your value. Because there's certain things about Ochei that will speak about the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst. Okay? Where you don't value yourself, you think you're not worthy of anything. Where you think you have no purpose at all. Which Ochei is telling you, you do. Ochei is telling you your life has meaning. Ochei is telling you that even the Creator, the Supreme Being, Olofi, Olorun, Olodumare, loves you. Loves you. I mean, with a great deal. God, Allah, whatever you want to believe, love you for who you are. So imagine if the Supreme Being, the Supreme Creator has that much love for you, and you don't have that for yourself, there lies a conflict. But Ochei tells you have to learn how to love yourself. Ochei tells you have to really sit back, take a breather, and understand the qualities that you have within yourself. The qualities, what you bring to the world. What you bring to the world as far as, different skills or talents or gifts or whatever it may be. Because your actions, your words, you have merit. Some people don't believe in that. Some people don't think that they they can offer anything that'll be good. But Oche says you can. Oche says it's in you. Oche says stop holding on to things that don't matter. Oche tells you to stop holding on to things that won't bring anything fruitful to your life, because the more you holding, if you holding on to whatever it is, attachments, if you're holding on to baggage, if you're holding on to excess, just stuff, how are you making room to receive blessings? If you're carrying all this weight, how are you letting go to make room to receive more blessings? Right? How are you waiting to really experience that breakthrough when you have all this excess baggage? When you talk about depression, you're talking about unresolved emotional dysregulation and function that's keeping you from pushing forward and advancing in your life to live a positive, well-rounded, and healthy life, because you're holding on to these attachments like shackles. What room are you leaving for yourself to receive the good, all the good that's waiting for you? What room are you leaving for that? None whatsoever. So if you want to be on a level where you're balanced, where you're pushing forward, you're allowing the influence and the teachings of Oche to guide you, then you have to be on a certain level with yourself. This is not, it's not very easy, but it's doable, and it's actually quite practical. It's very practical. You let go of something and you're making room for something. I mean, that's not complicated. Let go of what you don't need. Sometimes we're afraid to let go, but it's those attachments that we have that create illness, that holds us back, that doesn't help us push forward. When we hold on to issues that get us upset, that create certain chemical changes in our bodies and emit certain chemicals that just, it forces poison, unhealthy toxins are produced in our body because you want to remain bitter. You want to remain salty. How are you, what effect do you think that's going to have on others? If you have to be an example, like Ochei says, you're an example. The needle that pulls the thread, right? If Ochei falls for you, it comes out in a reading, and it's about the needle pulling the thread. Guess who's the needle? You're pulling the thread, meaning you're the needle, you're the role model, you're setting the example for others to follow. Oche talks about the blood, your health, your circulatory system. Make sure that you're on top of your health. Oche talks about family relations. Make sure that your ties with your family relations or concentrate, be aware of the nature of the ties with your family relations. Sometimes it's not good to keep certain relations or certain attachments going with family, because it'll breed problems or more conflicts. This is real life. It's real life stuff. It's just about, it goes with the thing of sometimes, you have to let go in order to receive bigger blessings. But, remaining salty and remaining bitter and calling and at the same time trying to be an example, a role model, people see what you're doing. People are going to watch and see what you're doing. They're going to watch what you do. They're going to watch how you follow, how you live your life. It's just what it is. You're always going to have someone that's watching what you're doing, and they may even emulate what you're doing. You can find everything good and bad in Oche. You can find love, riches, wealth to the maximum, good health, and you could also find the opposite, destitution. Okay, the worst of the worst, miserable, embittered attitude. I mean, you're just so depressed, you don't want to be bothered with life. Which is better? I guess, I mean, it's which is better? Which do you think is better? And then you're holding on to depression. You're holding on to things that are going to keep you, sour. What is that? We have a deity who we hold dear in Lukumi, and she's called the Alode. She's also known as Oshun, and it's said that Oshun owns this sign. She owns Oche, just like other Olodus, but she's that deity that really brings this signal of Oche, the meaning, and she brings it home, because she knows everything that you could imagine that's worth living for. She knows everything good, and she knows the extreme opposite of that too. She knows what it's like to have nothing. I mean, have nothing. She knows what it's like to be treated like the worst, in such a level that's so devastating. You don't even want to be alive anymore. She knows what all that is. That's why those, people, you have to understand, human beings are complicated. Human beings are complicated, but sometimes we're given a certain blueprint. We're given a certain system to follow to help guide us and help us navigate through this maze we call life, this interesting maze that we call life, this interesting, forest of endless possibilities. Because through those, while we traveling, there's a lot of stuff that can come out there and hold us and trip us and make us fall and make us not succeed and hold us back. Okay? These are things that we have to take into consideration. These are things that we have to take in consideration as far as the checks and balances. We have to check ourselves. We have to check how we deal with one another. We have to check how we carry our own lives, how we carry ourselves, how we want to be treated. First, we have to be able to respect others if we want to be respected, right? You have to be able to respect yourself. Check on your health. Make sure that what you're doing, that you're on top of your health at least. Ochei talks about health, your health, monitoring it at best. Make sure you're on top of it. Make sure you're on top of, how your family, your relatives are doing. Familial, biological, and spiritual, Make sure that, your ties with people make sense. Talks about slavery. Oche is quite expansive. Oche is quite expansive. What are you going to be a slave to? What are you enslaved of? Are you going to break certain chains that are creating problems that have been long-standing? Or are you going to hold on to these same chains and these same ties that have kept you enslaved, that have kept you in complete servitude in the most unhealthiest levels, to where your personality now has become so embittered, so jaded, okay, so influenced by a certain level of self-negativity that you don't even know how to come out of it. And you've become quite an unpleasant person, instead of understanding that you have more than many will ever have. No matter what level you are in life right now, know that you'll have more. You have more that many people will ever have. You have more than you realize. You have more than you realize. Okay? There are people who will never have half of what you have right now. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about, stop complaining. Ochei talks about, again, if you're at a position where all you're doing is talking about what you don't have, all you're doing is comparing yourself to someone else. All you're doing is becoming jealous, envious, because all these things you find in Oche, envious, and you want to start talking negative about people, or you want to create conspiracy or create problems or create what they call dia and gossip and rumors and all these things. What do you think is going to come back to you? Because you're living in a certain way where you effectively manifesting the negative attributes of Oche. You calling that to your life. You calling that. You attracting those energies to your life. So you're going to remain stewing in your bowl of sour, salt, and embittered, flavorful mess. That's what you're going to do. While you're watching other people rise around you, while you're watching other people shine, it has to make sense after a while. Things have to make sense. Again, Oche talks about checks and balances, just like Odus in general, Olodus in general, and Odus. It talks about checks and balances. What is it that we need today, tomorrow, next year, for the rest of our lives that's going to help us fulfill our mission? What is it that we need to remove? But many people who come in Oche forget. They forget things. We're human. We forget. But sometimes, some of us, we forget more, and we don't understand how others succeed and how we're not. Well, take a step back. Stop and look at what we're doing. Stop and look and see, okay, let me take a time out and do some self-reflection and introspection and really, really look at what am I doing wrong. What is it that I'm doing wrong that's not working for me? What is it that I can do that I love to do? Okay? I want to listen to some music. You listen to some music to get off your suicidal tendencies. Because Oche talks about suicide. Okay? Music was born in Oche. Why? Because that's what it is. So play some music so you can feel good. Change the aura, change the energy. Okay? You might be able to create music. You might have been able to have been born to be the next entertainer, the best entertainer in the world. Adopt these qualities, adopt these tools to help you fulfill your destiny, to help you fulfill your mission. Okay? Money was born in Oche. Guess what? I mean, if you know that, if you hear money was born in Oche, and this signal is what you came with, is coming for you, the powers that be, right? The deities, the invisible, unseen powers that be that can be felt are telling you, here are the tools that you have within yourself to actually make things come to pass for you. You can create an opportunity for yourself because you have this that's working for you. You have this ability that can change your life. It's in your best interest to do it. Instead, people choose to talk about woe is me, or people choose to talk about what they don't have, or people choose to speak about how others have something that they don't have and can't understand why other people are succeeding. No one has time for that. Life is too short. Again, your blood is important in Oche. You want your life to stop short? Remain salty. Remain bitter. Get angry every time somebody says something about you that you don't like. That's going to affect your heart. The likelihood of you developing strokes and heart attacks increase tremendously when you remain salty, when you remain upset for nothing. Because the people you're upset about don't care about you because they're living their lives. You're not a factor. You're not a factor in their life. They're living their lives. They're doing what they have to do while you remain enslaved and you're filled with all this self-hatred that's holding you back and keeping you from achieving your purpose and your mission and your destiny. Especially those of us who are ordained or crowned. What are we doing? It goes back to that. What are we doing? We got to use what we have to help us. The old dudes, the men in the Lagoon, right, is sort of works like a measuring stick, right? It helps you measure how far you can go. It helps you measure how far you can go and how far you can reach and how far your journey, can last. Take the good. Hold on to the good. Forget about the bad. The bad will always be there, but at least you have the good to help work with, so that you can become a great example of what you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to live, so others could mimic you. Because the bad thing about it is, if you remain, see, the thing about you being the needle pulling the thread, people are going to follow your lead however you go. So you can be salty as you want. People are going to remain, those of us who have, individuals who are needy or very impressionable in the mind and who have less than strong minds, in other words, weak minds, will follow your lead. And those of us who choose to hold on to the good, who choose to push forward, hopefully people will follow our lead too, because that's what it's about. And in essence, that's what pushes and advances and helps the community evolve. Because you're passing down tradition to the younger. Just like tradition is being passed down to my elders are passing down tradition to myself, and I'm passing down traditions to my minors. That's how evolution, that's how life continues. The continuum continues. I'm not going to subscribe to denigrating other people. I'm not going to subscribe to subjugation and using offensive, pejorative terms and ideology that does not uplift anyone. What it does, it creates dissension. It creates division. It creates the conquer and divide, colonial type of thinking and mentality that keeps us fighting like crabs in a barrel, that does not go with what Orisha talks about. It just doesn't. But listen, I'm off this, right? So what we gonna do, blessings to all my viewers, Noelia, blessings, SUB, Baba Me, blessings, 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 bendición. Noelia, I love you. All my viewers, the good people out there, keep pushing forward. Do what you have to do, okay? Do what you have to do to fight against the temptations to falter and be kicked off your path. It's not easy, it's hard, but we gotta do what we gotta do. Gotta keep pushing forward. I'm far from perfect. I came from, and I have a lot more to learn. Just giving you a little snapshot of my understanding, my interpretation of what this is all about and how it's affected my life, to an extent. But that's it. I'm off my soapbox. Be well. I'll talk to y'all later. Enjoy your day too. Drink some water, not too much. Not too much, what I'm saying? Exercise. Work your mind. Work your mind and your body. Let's get that balance going. Stay fit and stay rich. Be well.